Joe's lived here all his life, but he's not from around here. Street names are different, landmarks lie, and even money shows presidents he's never known. Some versions of Fort Wayne, Indiana are apocalyptical wastelands. Others harbor dark secrets. But when trouble strikes, Joe opens a trash can and tears a six-dimensional rift in reality. Inside lies a void where he glimpses the multiverse and rides unknown currents to another Fort Wayne, Indiana, hoping that this one may actually feel like home. With each crossing, his memories slip away. Only Nobuyuki, his shape-shifting Kitsune companion, remains constant, and they are hiding secrets about Joe's past that he may never remember. In a multiverse where the next trash can might lead to salvation or doom, Joe must find his way back before he forgets what home is. Middle-Aged Man in a Trash Can by William Bryan Johnson, published by Wild Rose Press, and available June 25th, 2025. Pre-orders are now available. Welcome to Tiki Man and the Viking podcast. This is the Viking. We are going to continue our second part interview with Jim Butcher. And as always, read a book. What are some of your favorite authors?
Let's see. Robert B. Parker is probably my number one favorite author.
Wow.
The author of the Spencer novels, as well as several others, but mostly he's known for Spencer. Robert B. Parker, he didn't start writing until he was in his late 40s. And then he just kept writing and banging out a novel every year. And from what I understand, he passed at the keyboard like a man, working on his next book. Honestly, that's how I'd want to go as well. But he's one of them. Dean Koontz is a novelist I've always admired very much. Always liked him better than Stephen King. I was never on the majority opinion in that, but that's okay. In fact, Watchers is still, Dean Koontz, one of his books, I think it was called Twilight, was an inspiration for the Dresden Files. So it was one of the books that inspired it.
Okay.
And Watchers is still one of my top 2 or 3 books that I love. Let's see. And then Lois Bujold is probably also one of my top favorite authors. Lois McMaster Bujold. She's won more Hugo Awards than anyone alive. I think she's probably the most skilled. I think she's probably the most skilled writer in science fiction and fantasy that's operating right now. She's mostly retired. She does novellas now and just sells them on Amazon. But her Vorkosigan series is a science fiction series that is absolutely amazing. She takes plot and world building and character and blends them so seamlessly that you can't tell where one starts and the other stops. She is a masterful storyteller, and I want to be able to write as well as her when I grow up as a writer.
That word retire, does that play a part in your life at all? Do you foresee retiring, moving into another creative venture?
No, probably not. I might move into other creative ventures, but I'm not going to stop writing. I kind of have to, or I'll lose my mind. Writing is one of those things that you don't do because you want to. You do it because you don't have a choice.
Right.
And I'm just so much happier and better balanced a person when I'm getting writing done. So I don't ever intend to retire as a writer. I'm just going to keep writing. I might get involved if, for example, there's another television project, I might get involved in something like that.
Right.
If there's ever a video game project, I might get involved in something like that. That'd be fun. And just sort of generally speaking, writing is expanding into a lot of different areas. And the younger writers that I'm teaching now, I'm like, listen, you need to be looking at these spaces where, you're going to be people are going to be wanting to hire writers for video games. They're going to be wanting to hire people to do story for various, various other ventures. And, you need to be, especially the video game era, you need to be aware of that because it's the largest sector of entertainment that there is right now. And good writing in video games really, really makes video games. It really, when people care about the story in a video game, that makes it amazing. Yeah. And otherwise, it might just be a game that's just sort of okay.
It's kind of like Skyrim. I absolutely love Skyrim, but yet I have not taken the chance to read all the books in Skyrim.
Right. Oh, well, even so, but somebody on the staff had to be there for the writing.
Yeah, and they
Somebody had to be there to
have to
do the
look good.
story for the various stories for that game, and that's
Mm.
something that I would advise young writers to look into. I've got a couple of them who are hired on as consultants to advise people on video game story. And they get a pretty good consulting fee for not very much time in a week. To show up and say, hey, this is how you need to. This is what you can do to make the story stronger. This is what here's this one little change you can make that will alter everything about the emotional impact of the story. That sort of thing. And the folks in the video game industry are like, fantastic, we love it. We and they seem to be very, very collaborative,
What
which seems an excellent way to go.
What are some of your favorite video games?
Right now, I am all about Helldivers 2 all the time.
Okay.
Helldivers 2 is a cooperative first-person shooter where you're playing the soldiers of Super Earth, who are fighting for managed democracy against the evil forces of the universe. And the evil forces of the universe are Terminators, the bugs from Starship Troopers, and the Illuminate, who are basically if you combined the Elite and the Flood from Halo. So you get it's a completely different battle every time you fight. It's different planets. Different biomes that you fight in. So you might be on the foggy haunted forest map in one map, and on the barren lunar moonscape map on another map. And so different weapons and different stratagems and so on are completely needed for the different environments. And it's a whole lot of fun. It's ridiculously cool action. It's the video game that I've played that most seems like being in a movie. I mean, occasionally I'll get done doing something in a video game and be like, oh man, I'm a hero. That was awesome. That was cool.
I have done the deed.
Yes.
Going back to talking about some of the series, you had kind of mentioned that when you first started doing Dresden, you had kind of a full series outline prepared. You knew where the series began. You had a good idea where it was going to end.
Yep.
Are you doing the same thing also with Cinder Spires?
Yes. Yes, I'm one of the people who thinks that all stories should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And even if you're talking on the larger scale, of a series of books, that book should have a beginning and a middle and an end. And we should get to it. Dresden Files is not an open-ended story. I'm gonna finish it and then I'll be done with it. But yeah, when I first set off, the first thing I did was to my teacher, after she'd read the first couple of chapters of the first Dresden, she said, all right, come back next week with an outline for the rest of it. And she meant the rest of the novel. And I came back the next week with an outline for a 20-book series with a big old trilogy capstone at the end of it. And I had just gotten to where she had just gotten me cooperating with her because I'd been arguing with her ferociously the whole time in college. And she just got me cooperating with her. So I know she didn't want to tell me you're never going to sell a 20-book series. And so because she didn't tell me it was probably impossible, I just kind of did it. Which is how things work out sometimes. I've made a lot of money out of being dumb and just sort of falling forward. I keep tripping over things, but I try and fall forward when I do.
Yeah.
How many books have you considered for Dresden?
Originally, it was going to be 20 books in the 3-book trilogy, but I haven't ever written a story this long before, and some things took some turns that I hadn't expected. So now it's going to be 22 books with a 3-book trilogy. And that seems just about right. That's 5 is a nice, good mystical number, and 5 by 5 for a 25-book series seems pretty good to me.
Have you ever had any characters that just kind of took off on their own storyline?
Oh, yeah. They keep doing that. Molly was somebody who was just sort of a walk-on who decided that she was going to be a major character in the books. I'm like, all right. Let's see. Butters was another guy who was there for a one-off, and he wound up being such a fun character that he wound up staying around. We've had, and there's probably been a whole bunch of others like that, but over time, as I look back, I go, no, of course it had to be that way. That's the way you feel about a good story, right? When you get to the end of it, it's like, oh, that couldn't have gone any other way. That's kind of the way you want to feel. That's exactly how that story should have ended. And when I look back at these characters now, a lot of it was me just trusting my instincts and saying, hey, this character came out a lot cooler than I thought. Maybe that means something. This character came out niftier than I originally intended. Maybe I should be doing something with that. And so that's what I did.
Now, I agree with your assessment about series, and they should not be infinite, have a beginning, middle, and an end. But what about the Annie Wilkeses of the world who want misery to keep going on? When you end the Dresden series and there's a huge fan base going, but I want more. Are you going to be resolute in your decision, or is there a possibility that you could open it up and move forward?
Oh, I won't open it up and move forward like that. Although I do have an idea for a spin-off series
Okay.
that I was going to call Monster LLC. And it's going to be starring because sometimes you need a hero to solve your problems, but other times you just need a monster. And
Okay.
Goodman Gray is a professional monster. That he's a monster for hire. Essentially, he's a shapeshifter, and so he would be the central character of that. It would be a much different story because the world, from the point of view of someone like Goodman Gray, the Dresden Files world is completely different than it is from Dresden's point of view, which is
Right.
actually a very wacky point of view for the world in a lot of ways. Because he's such a unique and uniquely isolated person. He's got his own weird point of view on everything. So, Dresden's an unreliable narrator. The world isn't the way that isn't exactly the way that he sees it any more than it's exactly the way that any of us see it.
Right.
But we each have our point of view, and we've kind of got to rely on each other to come up with a better picture. But I'd be writing that, and if Dresden survives the series, I'm still not sure he will. But if he survives the series, I could see him showing up as kind of a frenemy for Goodman Gray in that one,
Okay. Okay.
and that could be a lot of fun.
Do you have any rituals when you write or when you finish a book?
Oh,
Uh, I used to. I used when I got done with a really good scene. No matter the time of day, I would go out to Burger King and have my Burger King meal, which was 3 hamburgers, a large fry, and a Coke.
Okay.
And so if I had gotten done to the real end of a really good kick-ass battle scene or something like that I was really proud of writing, even if it was 3 a.m, we had 24-hour Burger Kings in Norman. While I was working on early Dresden Files, I would, and even then, even after that, the drive-through was open all night. I would show up to Burger King and get my meal and go home and eat it, and congratulate myself, and that was my thing. Um, these days, my body doesn't handle Burger King so well as it used to.
yeah. Yeah. Can
So
relate to that.
it's that's much more I just finished a book sort of thing to go eat. Because it's instead of it's like, you need to have chicken and tuna steaks. It's no, it's my once a month. I get Burger King today. You know,
Do you listen to music? Some writers listen to music while they're writing. Is that
I
part of your
do.
ritual?
I do. I listen to all kinds of different stuff. It sort of depends. It used to be I would write like playlists for the books I was in. These days, I have more
Oh,
like genres of music for where my head's at. So if everything is all chaotic and spinny up here, and I'm trying to sort things out, then I'll write to classical music. If I'm feeling lethargic, then I'll be writing to metal. And I'll be playing a lot of Metallica and metal covers of other songs that I like.
Mhm.
Um, it just sort of depends on where I'm at. If I'm writing, if I'm late at night, it's almost always like whiskey blues. Blues with a nice smooth electric guitar lead. And if I'm, but although when I'm working on my steampunk, I do almost exclusively string music. So
Huh.
Lindsey Sterling, two cellos, people like that.
wow. Okay.
Apocalyptica.
Yeah, Apocalyptica. Yeah, they're excellent. They can also go into metal. That's
Uh,
what's great about them.
what do you tend to do post-release of a book? So it's getting ready to get published. What is your
Hmm.
plan usually?
Generally speaking, when the book comes out, they'll send me out. They'll send on a Dresden book. They'll send me out on a tour, and it's like a week long tour. So when the week the book comes out, I'm going to bookstores every day, and what that looks like is getting up really early in the morning, catching an airplane, going to a new city, going to I might have time to get lunch. I might not.
Oh,
Then it's off to the bookstore. And I will sign stock ahead of time, and then do a talk with fans. And the fans are always very sweet to me. I love my fans. And so we'll have a bunch of laughs and have a good time for a little while, and then I'll sign books until 11:30, midnight, 1, 2. Occasionally I've been in California. I was signing books so late one evening that they actually, because of their electricity usage laws, they actually had to shut all the electricity down. We had to finish the signing by electric lantern light.
Wow.
Um, and but yeah, and then I'll do that. I'll get back to my hotel room like way too late. Maybe I'll be able to have something warm to eat and maybe not. These days you can DoorDash something, so I'm very grateful for that, because before DoorDash it would just be like you might be able to get a sandwich that was in the refrigerator, at the hotel, and otherwise, wait till tomorrow morning. Maybe you can get something at the airport before you get on your plane.
Wow.
And yeah, those were kind of a marathon. Those signings were tough. DoorDash makes them easier, because you can always get food. But you do that for about a week, and then you come home and you do a couple of local signings, and then I just sort of collapse for a while because I'm essentially a hermit who is really uncomfortable around people. So when I'm doing an interview like this, or when I'm doing, when I'm on tour, I kind of put on this famous guy mask that I wear. Famous guy Jim Butcher is like really good with people, and he remembers people's names, and he looks everyone directly in the eye and shakes their hand firmly and does all the cool things you're supposed to do while you're out being a public figure. But that's not who I am in real life. In real life, I won't say as many words in a day as I'm talking to you guys right. Over this hour, I won't say this many words. For another day and a half, I won't speak this much. But I will. But that's just kind of I'm an introverted nerd, and I'm not too afraid to say that these days. It seems to be people get along with it more easily now.
Yeah.
But when I go out, and because a lot of my fans are also introverted nerds, and so I've got to be the one who's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" and start up the conversation, and
Wow.
and come up with things that that are going to be good, easy for them to talk about. Hey, did you play this video game? What did you think of this recent Marvel movie? And so on and so forth.
I tell you, after your keynote at OWFI, I don't think there was anybody that Brian and I spoke to that wasn't moved, touched. I think a couple of people mentioned that they were in tears. What I was fascinated by it was the personal sense. It wasn't I'm Jim Butcher and I'm going to tell you how to write and market your books. It was, I'm Jim Butcher. This was my journey, and it keeps going on. What was the genesis of that particular keynote? Why did you decide to take that approach for that conference?
I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. I tell stories for a living. That's what all those people who are at the writing conferences, that's what they want to do too. They want to tell stories for a living. So, I tell you my story, and I try and I take it and I try and frame it in the way that you would a fictional story, in the sense that, I want to show people that in order to become the writer that you want to be, if you want to be a success as a writer, you've kind of got to become your protagonist character. You've got to be that character who is very tenacious, who does not give up, who runs into problems and setbacks and figures out ways over, around, under, or through them. You've got to be that sort of person in order to make it in the business as tough as writing, because it's a difficult business.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're willing to put that work in, if you're willing to be that stubborn person who isn't going to give up, who's going to persevere, then that's the route to success. And what I found out as I've become successful and I've met other people who are successful in their fields, that's exactly the same story that all of them have as well. Is almost all of them are like, listen, this wasn't about me being, particularly talented compared to other people in my field. It was about me being more tenacious than other people in my field and getting a little bit lucky. Luck definitely there's definitely a factor to it. Luck actually plays in, but when luck finds you, you have to be working, or it's not going to pay off. So if you're that person who is working and tenacious, and that's what I want to convey when I'm giving that speech to young writers, and not young writers, but up and coming writers. It is not a question of, writing is not a question of, do I have the right talents? It's the question of, have I worked to develop the right skills, and have I worked steadily enough that I have developed my skills to a point where it's going to be, people are going to be willing to pay me to read these chicken scratches I put on a page, to read the conversations that I wrote down between my imaginary friends, and it's a difficult skill to learn. It takes a while.
It does.
I greatly appreciate your time today, sir. We are out of time.
And great.
Appreciate you taking the time to do that with us.
Absolutely, man. No problem at all. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah. Any parting words for fledgling writers out there?
Yeah, sit down and write. There's no substitute for putting your butt in the chair and writing.
There we go.
So whatever it is you need to do that gets you gassed up to write, whether you need to do your little ritual of getting having your coffee ready and having your music in, whatever it is you need to do that, because there's no substitute for sitting down, putting your keys on the keyboard, and writing.
All right.
And we'll always end with the same line that we always end with, right, Brian?
We go. Read a book.
Read a book. Read.
Tiki Man and the Viking Podcast brought to you by Rumination of Thunder Media. The following intro and outro music was used for this media project. The music Find Them by Alexander Nakrata. Free download from filmmusic.io. License Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International.